and welcome. You're listening to the Just Love Them podcast. I'm your host, Shiree Best. This is a place where we share experiences, insights, and wisdom to help you find peace with those you loved who stepped away from their faith. Today, I have a special guest, Tera Brown. Tera is a trauma-informed life coach and speaker who specializes in emotional resilience, communication, and navigating complex family dynamics. With a passion for helping people strengthen relationships and create emotional safety, she supports individuals in finding peace and connection, even when beliefs, values, or life paths differ. Tera teaches that healing happens when we integrate the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of our lives. Through her private coaching practice, online group programs, and retreats, she provides tools and guidance for fostering understanding, reducing conflict, and maintaining meaningful connections with loved ones. She loves speaking and teaching and enjoys spending time with her husband of 30 years and their four amazing children. Tera holds a BFA from BYU in fashion design and spent the first part of her career making custom wedding dresses and coaching brides. Welcome, Tera.
Thank you.
And I actually have gotten to hear you speak on, I think, several occasions. I know what a beautiful speaker you are. I've just seen your beautiful heart, and I'm so excited that you're willing to join me here today.
Yeah, I'm actually thrilled to be here.
Oh, good. And even though you have such a beautiful repertoire, you have your own story as well. And I'm excited to hear what you want to share from that today.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a great place to start is I think that in my experience, healing comes as we watch other people around us, and that the best way that we can serve other people is by going through our pain and finding the way through. And that's how we help other people along the way. I always tell people, look for someone who's a little bit farther on the path than you are. It's really hard to help someone down the path farther than you are, but you want to be able to see someone who's down the path farther than you, and so that you know what it looks like, so that it feels safe for you to come there too, because it feels
Absolutely.
really unsafe to go past where that mentor is.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay, so I guess I'll just start by sharing a little bit of my story. I grew up in a very rigid home. I love my parents to death. They're my greatest teachers, but they grew up in a system who grew up in a system who grew up in a system. And so it was very much like this is the box, and we stay in the box. And we don't ask questions about what's outside of the box. We don't even look out the windows because that's scary. And if you leave, I would be devastated. And it's your job for me to not be devastated, right? So I grew
Mm.
up in that system. At this point, my parents might be devastated. While I am still in the box, my box looks different. It's probably a different shape at this point. And probably because of the gift of my family that I have, in my bio, it says I've been married 31 years this summer. And I have four amazing kids who are all on their very own paths. They're all adults. And I say that with little quotations because my youngest is 19, but he reminds me all the time that he's an adult.
Hmm.
So my kids are 26 to 19, and they are all in their own journeys and their own struggles, trying to figure out. I'm sure they could tell the same kind of chaotic story from their childhood that I can, because I often say, in a lot of ways, my youngest grew up with much more emotionally healthy parents than his older siblings. For whatever reason, I had three kids in 3.5 years and then a 4 year break and another one. And so he feels like he's kind of on his own island because he feels so much younger, even though 4 years is not really that much time.
And I think it's actually to your credit that you can say he grew up with almost like different parents than the older ones. I say that to my kids too. In fact, just the other day, I said to one of my daughters, my younger daughters, I said, you had a completely different set of parents than your older sister. But I think that's to our credit most of the time when we can say that.
Right. And notice I said more emotionally healthy, maybe not necessarily perfectly healthy, right? Because we still have
Right.
our stuff. And we were doing some construction, pulling up some carpet the other day, and noises, voices get louder. And when we work together, sometimes our old patterns come out. It's easy for that to happen. But so more emotionally healthy. And I think that gives space for kids to figure out what they want on their own, aside from staying in mom and dad's box, right? So my oldest had his own things. I remember when he was in high school, he wanted to fit in badly. And he would come home from football practice and he would cough and it would smell like cigarettes. And I said, "Hey, have you been smoking?" Not in a, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" kind of a way, just like in a, "You just coughed and now my whole car smells like cigarettes. What's going on?" "Oh no, I was just standing by some guys who were." I'm like, "Okay, well," and I wanted to believe him more than anything. He graduated from high school and he went away to college. He played football in college his first semester. They promised the world and didn't really deliver the team. His first roommate was from Alaska. So he moved to Arizona from Utah. His roommate moved from Alaska. His roommate's parents dumped off their son, bought him a closet full of beer, a brand new $40,000 truck for a kid who'd never driven on a freeway, and
Oh,
said good luck and left. 2 weeks later, my son moved out. He was just like, this is not my situation. I don't want it to be like this. And so he didn't tell me. He was afraid what my reaction might be. So he didn't tell me that he moved. But a few weeks after that, when we went to one of his football games in southern Utah, a woman introduced me to her. She said, "Hi, I'm your son's roommate's mom." And I was like, "You flew to this little tiny town in Utah from Alaska?" And she was like, "No, no, no, we live in Arizona." And I was like, trying to put the pieces together, desperately trying to figure out what was going on. Well, he grew up in a place where he thought it would be better to hide things from me. And he
hmm,
grew up, and so that's part of his work along the way. But in that process, he's just decided that it's easier for him to not go to church, to not be a part of it. In fact, he asked me the other day, he said, "Where are my records for the church?" And I said, "They're with me still. I have them." Because he doesn't live with us anymore. He's 26. He's living his life.
hmm,
He said, "Can you just do me a favor? Can you just keep them there?" Because he said, "When I come back," which I thought was an interesting choice of words. "When
yeah,
I come back, I want to know where they are and I want to know that I can be found." I said, "Absolutely. And we have such a great, healthy relationship now. I can ask him anything, crazy things I never thought I'd ask one of my children. It's a testament to that conversation and then not reacting when they say the hard things. That is super not easy as a mom,
right.
but but also super important for him to know that I see him, that I see where he is, that I love him anyway, despite his choices, maybe in spite of, or, I don't know how to say that, but just like I love him no matter where he is. So I'm going to let him be where he needs to be instead of trying to manage him. And that's the other thing. If I jump back to my pattern in my childhood, is I learned really early on that it was my job to manage everyone, to manage how my parents felt, to manage my brothers and sisters. I learned really early on that if one of them got in trouble, I got in trouble because it was my fault that they were messing up.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I became like this manager of everyone. And it shows up today every once in a while, even in my life now. I'll be like, "Ooh, no." And then I'm like, "Oh, hang on, not my job. I don't need to do that anymore."
So, how did you get from a place where you felt like you needed to manage everybody? How did you go from that to even with your oldest child to a place of where you felt like you needed to let him manage himself? Where did that shift happen? How did that happen?
I think that when I finally realized, when I could finally see it for what it was, I did a lot of studying about the drama triangle. I love to say I'm a rescuer in recovery. But when I realized that rescuing was literally, I told myself I was trying to help them, but actually I felt uncomfortable. And it was more selfish than I realized because I felt uncomfortable. So I needed you to do something different. So I was going to step in and do it for you.
Hmm.
And I love to say, so what I do is I like hop onto your side of the pickleball court and I try and play the game from over there, but then I get really frustrated because there's not really a game because there's no one on the other side because I'm trying to like hit the ball for you and then I don't have enough energy to run back and forth. So I think that's when I realized it was when I realized how exhausting it was to try and manage everything in my life and everyone else. I like to think that it's kind of like a pendulum where it's like I'm managing everything and everyone in my life just so that I'll feel safer. And then I sometimes go to, I am managing no one, including myself, and I'm hands off of everything and I don't even want to talk to you. And I think that we have to go to those two extremes to be able to find where the healthy middle is. I notice that so much in my work. I have to go clear to the other extreme in order to find where the comfortable middle healthy space is.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Would you take a minute and explain what the drama triangle is?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so there's three characters in the drama triangle, and it came from a guy named Stephen Cartman, so I'm going to give him the credit for it. But it's a social construct, it's a pattern that we do. So there's the rescuer who wants to give you a fish instead of teaching you how to do it. There's the persecutor who tells you that you're wrong and it's your fault and everyone's suffering because of you. Then there's the victim. And the victim is like, oh, he's kind of like Eeyore. I love to think of like he talks slower, he moves slower, and everything happens to him. Like my day is bad because it's raining, and I don't have any money in my account because the economy is bad. And so I'm always looking for what's wrong with my life. In this little triangle, we get caught in the corners. So we enter with one role and we mostly stay there, but it's really easy. So we do it to each other, we do it to ourselves. We can flip back and forth. So distraction is the rescuer's number one. So if I'm distracting myself, I'm scrolling, I'm eating, I'm exercising, I'm like whatever, reading just to avoid
Hmm.
because this is painful and I don't, so I'm gonna just pretend like it's not there. So I do that to myself, but then I just beat myself up. Why am I always doing this? Why am I finding myself here again? Why do I keep going here? And so I love to say in the end, we all try and prove we're the biggest victim. I'm here. I'm just here. Number one way out of victim is gratitude. I'm going to change what I'm looking for. I'm going to change how I see things, which is, I think that's, when you ask how I get to that place with my son, with all of my kids, it's that place. Like, I'm so grateful. I'm so crazy in love with them. Do I love every choice they make? Absolutely not. Some days am I afraid of what other people think about the choices that my son makes or my kids? No. Like I remember having this conversation with my son one day. I was really frustrated and I said, "You cannot vape in my house." And he said, "Well, would you rather that I just go stand on the driveway and do it in the driveway?" And I said, "Actually, yes, please, just do that." He's like, "Well, all the neighbors will see." I said, "I don't really care what they think. This isn't about them. This is about me not wanting my house to smell like that."
Hmm.
Yeah, you're hiding and you're hiding it from me and you're hiding it from yourself and you're hiding it from all the neighbors. Just go do it on the driveway if you want. Like, if you want to do that, own it. Go there, do that.
I love that.
And did I really want the neighbors to see? Probably not, but it was a lesson in all of that for me too. Because that was a good question. Do you want everyone else to see? I don't really care what they think. This isn't about them.
Yeah. Thank you for
Right.
taking time to explain that for my listeners.
Yeah, sure. You bet. You can find all kinds of fun little videos on YouTube about the drama triangle. So it's a good one.
Very cool.
I think that, as my kids grew up and they each made their own choices, I have two that were missionaries. My second son came home and one like day three of COVID because he had on his papers that he had had asthma when he was a child. And so I think they went through and flagged all the asthma kids and just sent them home first. So he said, "Mom, I didn't go to the fun party at the MTC in Mexico City with all the Mexico missionaries. I had to come home early." Like he had about 6 hours notice. Well, he had about 4 hours notice to come home. And I
Oh,
think he had
wow.
about 8 hours notice that he was coming home. So I had that. And then I have a daughter who served a mission in Chile. She served 10 months and came home because of some mental health challenges. And so we went the other day, my brother's son came home from his mission. I said, "You're so lucky you got to have that whole anticipatory 2 years of this is the day he's coming home," because I never had that experience. So
Uh-huh.
and my daughter came home, and those mental health challenges were hard for her. And she's in a space right now that is great for her. I think she feels healthier now than she ever has. But also, she's decided that church is hard and the singles ward is hard, and it feels really hard for her right now. And so she's not going. And I could sit and beg or manipulate or manage her and try and get her to come and go wake her up and all of the things, but then again, here I am on the other side of the pickleball court and trying to make her come because I want her to be there. And that's never a good reason to go to church, I think, because you're trying to make someone else happy. Then you're really not there anyway, probably on your phone scrolling while someone's talking at the pulpit, truthfully.
Absolutely.
Um, for a myriad of reasons that I go to church by myself most days, most Sundays. And it actually feels refreshing in a way because I'm not tethering them all to me and making them make me happy. It's not their job to make me happy, but also it kind of feels lonely sometimes. It feels like, what's wrong with my family, or why can't they get it together? And when I start down the road of wonder what the neighbors think of this, I get to just say to myself, this is between us and God. This is between my child and God, where they want to be right now. I want to tell one more experience. My husband, he came to me one night and he said, I have this experience about the oldest son. He said, the other day I was praying and I was just like, what should I do? How can we get him to do this? How can we force him into this box again? Right? He said, I just had this most comforting feeling come over me. And he said, all of a sudden, I just was like, oh, yeah, he's your child too. And so I'm going to hand him back to you and I'm going to say, how about you manage him for a while? How about you in his heart? How about I let you be the one who's doing that work and I'll just be here and I'll love him wherever he is. It was such a beautiful moment where it was like, yeah, actually, I think when we put our trust in God and when we allow ourselves to just hand him back, that's really scary because I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But then we have moments like him the other day saying, where are my records and will you keep them for me? That wouldn't have happened if I would have been like, no, you have to come. No, you have to be here. Get a little emotional about it. You can hear letting God be the one in charge, letting him be the one who does the work in my son's life and all in all of my kids' lives is going to be how we all stay together.
In order to do that, you actually do have to learn to trust God on a deeper level. I know I did.
Yes.
I thought I trusted God, but then when it came to that point where you're like, okay, well, I can't manage you anymore. I love your pickleball analogy. It's like you can't be on both sides of the court. That's just such a beautiful analogy, but
Yeah.
you're going to let God help manage that. And it really does take a deeper level of trust to go a little deeper and let him totally do it.
Yeah. I remember years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I had a friend and she had a situation kind of like mine is now where she was the only one, she and her husband, well, she actually at the time was the only one going to church. And she said to me, I think if I can just stay on the path and what I'll do is I'll just let them hold on to my robes, she said, and I'll drag them across the pearly gates. I was like, at the time I was a really young mom and I was like, is that really how it works? Is that really what's going to happen? And I've thought of that so many times, like all of her family holding on, and what a burden that would be to have to feel like it was your job to make them all cross the finish line, and how much more healthy of a situation it could be if I cross the finish line and stand there with my arms open and welcome them and invite them.
And then plus, what about agency? Like you can't
Right?
really drag your children there on your rope. Agency, it's a huge part of why we're here.
That's so funny. I actually did a Facebook post one day because I was just kind of ornery one day and I was like, who wants to join my new club? I'm going to call it Moms Against Free Agency. I think it sounds really great. I'll just manage you. I'll just, that was way back in the day when I thought I could just force everyone to do it my way, to see it my way. And I had a couple of friends who were like, yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what you want. And do you want to live in that club? Do you want to live with your mom's lack of free for you? And I was like, oh, no, I guess not. So, okay,
Yeah,
never
it's just that we want agency. We just don't want the other people to.
Oh my gosh, it's so sad and true.
And it's so hard to know exactly when to give up that agency. I think we get lulled when our children are younger, we get lulled into this false belief that we really are in charge, that we really do control the outcome, because we do have a lot of control when they're younger. But then when they become adults, it's really hard to know where that letting go place is. And is it gradual? Is it sudden? How did you navigate that? And at what point were you able to kind of let go and let God manage the pickleball game?
Yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. It kind of reminds me of like I used to say I love Christmas because I could tell my kids what they wanted and I could do all the shopping by Labor Day and I was done, right? I used to buy all their clothes and do all the things and I think that being a mom to a boy for certain is a long goodbye. It's like this, I'm going to teach you and model it for you and then I'm going to teach you how to do it for yourself. That's how to get out of rescuer, right? I'm going to teach you how to do it for yourself instead of you being dependent on me forever. And, I have one that's married. He and his wife are expecting a baby any day now. And it's so exciting to watch him become a dad. He's my only one right now who's active in the church. And I'm so excited for the possibilities that those two have. It's so exciting to watch him move into that new role of parenthood. Like he's scared to death. I remember my first, but I think that as we recognize, I don't want to be the one dragging you across. It can't be my job. It's too emotionally exhausting. It's too physically exhausting to have to be in charge of all of you. I just actually can't. It's really impossible for me to do. And so as I just open my hands and let go of that death grip that I have on them, I give them permission to choose for themselves and to want it. Because until that point, I think until they're like early teens, we have this hold on them. Like we're just pulling them along. This is where we go. This is what we do on Sunday. This is what we wear on Sunday. This is how we
Hmm.
show up. This is how we be Christian, right? I think as they start to individualize themselves and start down that path of discovery of themselves, that we get to learn how to just let go a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time. That's why I say it's a long goodbye. It's like this long process of I'm training you up so that you can be your own human, so that you can be your own man, so you can be your own woman, so that you can make decisions for yourself and you won't have to call. You can call and say, how do you make the meatloaf of grandma's recipe? But you don't have to say, how do I be honest in my life? Because we've been modeling those things all the way along. And I think it's a daily process of trusting myself enough to trust them to make their own choices.
That's a great answer. I like that a lot. And I totally agree with you. Is
Yeah.
there anything else that you would like to share?
I just think, especially for your listeners, it's this whole space of find people who have similar stories to you, who can understand, who can empathize with what you are going through. Because there are moments when you're like, I need someone to see me. I need to be seen and heard. I need to share my feelings. And it might not be safe to do that with some of the people in my life. I need to find those safe places. I think that's why this podcast is a really great place to just be like, oh, yeah, I do feel seen and heard here.
Yeah.
There is someone who gets it.
Yes, you're not alone.
Yeah, because I think that's one of Satan's biggest tactics is I said this yesterday when I was teaching at church, like one of his biggest tactics is I'm alone and you're alone and you shouldn't tell anyone what's going on because what will they think? And so just keep it to yourself and just, and then it moves into and don't even tell God about it. And so it's this whole he wants us to be disconnected from Heavenly Father.
A really, really good insight. I like that a lot. Tara, will you take a minute and just share with my listeners what you do? And you are an amazing person, and I would just love my listeners to hear a little bit about what you do in case that's a good fit for them.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm actually a trauma-informed life coach. So I work with women especially who are in situations that are hard, that are traumatic. And trauma is anything that happens to us and it's the story we tell ourselves about that. So it's not actually the event, the car accident that breaks our leg, but it's all the pain and the recovery that goes along with healing that leg. So I help women like I teach emotional literacy classes and I have a retreat about recovering from trauma and any trauma in your life. It's not only betrayal trauma or losing children, hard relationships. It's all kinds of things that women come to, but it's called La Loba and it's about finding the pieces of yourself that you lost along the way. And
Sounds
then
super
my
valuable.
heart is in teaching other people how to become coaches themselves. And so I have a trauma-informed 1 year long mastery coaching program that is mentorship and apprenticeship, and it's faith-based because I can't not talk about Heavenly Father. Teaching different modalities to help you get really good at facilitating emotional literacy with your own clients and helping that change happen.
That's fantastic. I actually didn't know that part. I didn't know you
Oh,
taught
really?
coaches, so that's really cool. So anybody who feels like they would like to work with Tara or learn from Tara, I'm going to leave links for that in the show notes so that people can connect with you, Tara. And thank you so much for being here today, for sharing your story. I've really learned a lot by connecting with you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for my listeners, there is so much support for you here. You are not alone, like we've talked about. In addition to the Just Love Them podcast, where we seek to bring you the best stories, the best people, and the best information, you also have access to the private Just Love Them Facebook group, where you can link arms and share in a safe space with others who have been there too. You can also message me on Facebook or sign up for a free mini session. in return, if you would take a minute and just rate and review this podcast if you haven't already done that, subscribe if you haven't already done that, and most of all, if you would share this podcast with somebody else who may need it. Please join me again next time for another episode of Just Love Them.